a candid 3 things Stephanie wants you to know about pregnancy loss and stillbirth coming up. Stephanie and I have been talking a little bit about what people say when they try to be helpful. And I definitely want to know if I am not being helpful. And I think the last person that needs to tell me that is the person that I just accidentally hurt their feelings.
Right.
So I'm so grateful that Stephanie is willing to talk about the hard stuff, which is, I know you come from a good place, but that is the worst thing that you can say to someone after a pregnancy loss or a stillbirth or a miscarriage. Or the loss of a child. So I need to know this, and I think you need to know this. We all need to know this because the goal is to continue to talk about pregnancy loss and to continue to talk about fetal loss. I need a better word for this. Like, is there one? There's not one word. So
no, because there's miscarriage, there's stillbirth, there's death after the baby's born.
There's infant loss, termination. Okay, so there's a lot of words for it. We need to continue talking about this because it's not taboo. The last thing I would want is for someone to feel ashamed or embarrassed to talk about this.
Right.
And when you find out that there's someone in your life that has had a loss, you do not want to put your foot in your mouth and then close the conversation.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here. Hello, welcome back. This is the 3rd video in pregnancy loss series, Stephanie's story. This is Stephanie, and she wants to share, which I'm really excited about, what she wishes other people knew about pregnancy loss and stillbirth. Okay, I am excited about this one. What I wish others knew.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Hit us.
Yeah, so a lot of times I'll come across people who have either heard about Robert and our story, or, they just know that we lost a child, because I have become more vocal about it than I did before. And a lot of times they'll say, so you lost a baby, or they'll tiptoe around the subject, like they won't be as forthcoming. And I think that people should know that, at least in my life, it's okay to talk about him. It's okay to say his name. And yes, it may sting a little bit for me to hear you say Robert, or to talk about me losing a child. But part of me also likes to know that you're bringing him up and that you're talking about him, because I do have 3 children, 3 daughters who are here, and you see them, and I talk about them all the time, and you see pictures and videos, and you see them out and about. Robert, you don't see. And so to know that people are still aware that he's part of my life and he's part of who I am and why I'm here is nice. And it's kind of comforting in knowing that you still remember him and you still talk about him. So
you said you would rather me say his name and bring him up if I have a question than to just
than to shut down and ignore that thought even came into your mind.
Okay. Do you think that is the truth for most people?
So I have talked to a few other angel moms about it, and yes, they feel the same way. Now, whether or not you accept the answer that we give for your question is a little sketchy. Like, some people will ask me what happened, and that day may be a bad day, and I may say, not right now, I'll talk about it later, I promise. And then I'll come around and I'll talk about it. Or if someone approaches me and they're like, so we heard that you lost a son, we're so sorry. Those are good words. Okay. Those are good words to say. Okay. To say, well, at least you have another one. That's not a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I said, oh, I didn't realize you had a son, what's his name? That is helpful.
Yes.
Okay. Even though that makes me sad. But
if you want to know.
I want to know. And also, me being sad isn't really a huge deal.
No.
My sad is very different than your sad. It makes me a little sad, but I definitely don't want to make you more sad.
Right. No, and
it's
doesn't.
It's not going to make you more sad.
It doesn't. No. Okay. To know that people are out there who know the story but don't know his name, or don't know how old he was, those kind of questions, I like answering, because then it gives me a sense of, well, you're asking questions about him and you want to know about him. Let me tell you about him. Oh, yeah. Whereas, my 3 daughters, you see them and you probably know more about them than you do him. So to be able to answer questions has been healing for me, kind of, but also reassuring in the same sense that people do care and they do want to know, and it's not one of those taboo subjects that nobody talks about.
We do want to talk about it.
Yeah.
We don't always
finding
know
the right way to talk about it.
Okay, so finding the right way, and also you said it's a way for you to continue your discussion about your son, and to hopefully continue the discussion and the healing with other people who are on a different part of their journey with their children and their babies. Bottling it up for me, and I just recently talked with a friend who didn't want to ask someone about her miscarriage. She didn't want to ask another friend about her miscarriage. I think that bottling up, if I bottle up my questions, there's something in between us that has changed.
Yep.
My stomach, you
You're
can
hungry.
totally hear on the microphone. I am hungry. So having that like non-discussion in between us affects our relationship.
Exactly.
So you either don't say it and someone's bottling, or maybe you want permission to talk.
Right.
Also, because the last thing I want is for you to have to calm me down, or like worry that it's too much for me.
Right.
There's like it's
a big bridge to cross.
It is.
Or a big wall to climb, whichever analogy you want to use.
I love analogies. I love both of those analogies. It kind of depends on the day.
It does. Because, you could have that one friend who asked a question, or maybe didn't ask a question, just assumed something and said it, and it was the wrong thing. And so then there was a bridge there that has been damaged. Or you have that one friend who had a question and didn't ask it, and now there's a wall because they bottled it up. And me personally, and a couple of other friends that I know who have lost children, feel like if you're asking me questions about it, you're wanting to know more about me and about myself, and you're just learning about him and me both.
Exactly.
So that's a big deal too.
So those are your real, true. Even if you have real, true friends that don't know how to talk about it, the ones that have tried, you're closer with.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's part of you.
Yeah.
That's good.
Even though it's a sensitive subject, most days, it's still a subject that I would want to have, like a discussion I would like to have. Because again, it's in my mind and in my heart, it's feeling like you asked me this because you care. Whereas if I come across someone who I know that they know our story and they don't talk about it, I feel like, oh, well, they just don't care.
But that might be their own insecurity.
It could.
Their own.
But from this perspective, it's, well, you just don't care what I've been through, or you don't care to know the story.
Oh my gosh, are you listening? So replay that. That was a good one. Share this with someone who maybe needs to hear this. This is a big deal. This is good. Okay, so if you don't want to look like you don't care, speak up.
At least say, and this, again, personal situation that happened.
Tell me what to say.
Like, even if you don't know what to say
or
what to ask, you can always say, hey, look, I'm sorry about Robert, or I'm sorry that you went through this. Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? And then if the person wants to open up and talk about it, then they will. If they don't, they may say, no, I don't, or not right now, not at this point, not at this time, not in this place, whatever. But at least you've opened that up and you've opened that door.
Because a lot of people have heard about things that happen because of social media and because of storytellers.
Yeah.
They don't always have that direct. We need to do better with the direct one-on-one. So what I've said in the past is, hey, and it may have been with a patient or with someone that that I didn't know very well. I've said, I'm not talking about this. I just don't know what to say yet.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Okay. That's okay too. Because at least you've put it out there that you do care and that you are aware of what's happened.
Yeah. Because a lot of times it's better to just listen anyways.
Yeah. Another thing that I wish others knew.
Yeah.
Is that I'm not the same person I was before I lost Robert. people put on fronts, they put on their happy faces, and they go about their days. There are days where I don't want to put on makeup and I don't want to do life. Like the whole process of getting up, going to work, doing school, doing chores, doing lunches, all that stuff. And that doesn't mean that I'm not still Stephanie. I'm still me, but a different me. Again, grief changes, and so do people as their grief changes. Before Robert, I didn't have those thoughts of blaming myself for things. And now I do. And, still I have to work through those. And I may appear to have it all together and, appear to have moved on with life, but there is no moving on after a loss. You just pick up the pieces of what's left and you rebuild and you remold into this new person. And most aspects of who I was before are still here, but some of them are gone.
So the idea that it'll just take some time to get back to your old self is just...
No, that's not a reality.
That's not a thing.
No. And that's another thing that I struggled with. Like, so many people had told me, oh, one day you won't even think like this, or one day it won't be this bad. And for a long time, I waited for that day to come around. And it didn't. And I had to accept that day wasn't coming. And that was okay. That I was a different person, and that was okay. And people would either have to accept me the way I was, or they'd have to move on without me. And it is what it is.
Yeah.
There were people who I feel like in my life kind of shut down or stopped talking to me as much as they did because they either didn't know what to say or they were scared they'd say something that would cause me to lose it.
It's so funny. The people who really do say those things don't ever have that, like, I don't know what to say, or I don't want to say the wrong thing. They just spout out stuff like it's like losing a pet.
Yeah.
That is the wrong thing to say, but
totally wrong.
It doesn't seem like those people are the ones with that hard filter.
Right.
Oh, so if you met someone today that was looking for answers with either child loss or pregnancy loss, what's the one thing you want them to know?
I would have to say that it's okay to not be okay. That you're still going to have days, years from now, that you're not okay. And that's okay. It's okay to not be okay. In life, we want people to see the good stuff and the happy stuff and the peaches and roses and
Instagram filters.
Yeah. But that's not what life is. Life is dirty and it's raw and it's dark at times. And we need to start opening up about that more. We need to start showing people that, again, it's okay to not be okay. I feel like we're in a time where people are committing suicide and doing drugs because they're trying to run away from things, and they don't want to feel the feelings that are hard, and they don't want to talk about the things that are hard. So being able to open up and talk about them and to know deep down that where you're at right now is okay. You're not going to stay there. You'll get up and you'll brush yourself off and you'll pick up the pieces and go from there. So just knowing that this is not defining who you are. This one moment of your life doesn't define who you are. It's a piece of who you are and who you will become later on.